All right, hello, welcome back. Go Big Orange Friday with no Ryan Shumpert, no Brent Hubbs, no Austin Price, no Ethan Stone. Is that old friend Eric Cain, the Cainer himself? Locked on Vols, Volquest. Eric, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm hoping to live up to the standard that those guys you already mentioned have set, but I'm happy to be here.
I am happy that you're here, man. Are you glad? Was there a part of you that you were like, man, a one and done in Hoover kind of hit the spot here? Like, I'm glad that was not a full-on week situation. Like, was there a part of you that kind of felt that way?
Maybe a little bit. Anybody that covers, on remote and, covers the team on a beat and, goes into a tournament-like setting where it's very much unknown to where you drive down on Tuesday, you could be coming back that next Monday. It's the fact that they played one game and I was able to, get a quick night's sleep and turn around that next morning, come back, wasn't the worst thing in the world. However, that's when memories are made, right? Even for people like us who are, covering these teams, go out and, meet new people, make connections, go out to the bars, have a good time. But, I think it's not the end of the world for Tennessee for sure. They get a whole lot of rest, and it wasn't the end of the world for me.
I love that it's like you can't win, you can't lose if you're Tony Vitello, where it's like if you say that, like, actually this is good, they're like, what a loser mentality. You can't be like, this is really good. But then on the flip side, you saw last year, they run the gauntlet. It doesn't really matter. So
No.
fans aren't ever going to be happy either way. And he can't really win with however he comments on it. Because if he looks on the bright side, I saw the response of like, you can't have that attitude. Like, of course you wanted to go far. It's like, I think it's okay. I think Vitello could look on the bright side here and just be like, actually, this is pretty nice. I'm glad we actually, because it really doesn't mean anything in terms of, I mean, I guess with hosting, it would have been nice to host. But if what it looks like right now, where you get the best number 2 seed regional of anybody, it's a pretty good place to be in where you'll probably be favored to get out of it. It's okay. I think it's fine.
It's really not the end of the world. Yeah, like if you won a couple of games, you maybe could have picked up a hosting spot. So you were definitely playing for something. And every time you go out there and you put on that jersey, you are playing to win the game. I understand the offense approach on Tuesday was abysmal. I understand you lost to Texas A&M. I understand fans are frustrated. I get it. But it's not like the team is trying to lose. So. But last year you were so good. You were the number 1 overall seed. You could have lost on that Wednesday game and still been the number 1 overall seed. Last year, it really didn't matter. This year, there were some implications and everything. But the thing you got to remember, the SEC tournament in Hoover, it's such a spectacle. It's so much fun. It's why we love college sports, right? But what happens next weekend is so much more important than anything that happens in Hoover. And so you just kind of have to remember that, be competitive, want your team to win, but knowing when they do lose in Hoover, it's going to be okay because what happens the next weekend is going to be much more important.
Yeah, for me as a fan, I'm just looking at it as like, I kind of wanted it to be over. It's like the midweek games where I don't like having to pay attention to this during my week. It's not do win or go home, and this is just completely selfish on my part, but I'm sure there was a lot of Tennessee fans and not just you and I who were like, let's just go ahead and get out of here. Let's just move on and get ready for the actual tournament that matters. But I don't know. I don't think the sky is falling. Like you said, the approach to the plate was weird. I mean, why do you think they had that, especially against a pitcher who they shelled a couple months prior? Like, what did you learn and glean from their approach and why they attacked the way that they did? That ended up only being with Christian Scott, of course, with irony being what it is. Christian Scott being your lone hit after the crap that a lot of Tennessee fans have thrown at Christian Scott all year long.
Yeah, him and Hunter Ensley, man, two of my favorite stories of this year. Christian Scott more so than Ensley because Scott's a fifth-year senior. But anyway,
yeah,
this team struggles, and I'm not breaking any news here. This team struggles against lefties because they are such a left-handed hitting lineup. It struggles against lefties who can locate a fastball early in a count and then has a breaking ball that can go away from those left-handed hitters. And Tennessee struggled with Wayne Singh on Tuesday. Tennessee struggled with that freshman at Georgia that came in Game 2, and both of those guys had horrendous stat lines. And I mean, it's fact, right? I mean, this guy Tennessee shelled earlier in the year. He had a 5.98 ERA coming into that game. There was a lot of reason to think Tennessee was going to have a good day, but sometimes, you just kind of get in that funk, and from the left, hitting from the left side, you just can't hit any breaking balls, and that's kind of where Tennessee was. Now, should they have managed a couple more hits? Should they have put some more guys on base? Absolutely. They've done it before. I mean, it's not like they can't hit left-handed pitching. It's just sometimes they get in that groove, kind of like Tennessee basketball offensively, to where, nothing's kind of falling. So I thought the approach was really, really bad on Tuesday. Top to bottom of the order. I didn't think anybody really looked good. They had some hard hit balls towards the end that it was right at people, and that's the sport of baseball sometimes. If it makes you feel any better, Texas A&M one hit South Carolina earlier in the week as well. So they're they're doing some things down there in Hoover.
It's funny too. Like I was at Yeehaw with my wife, the Georgia game that you're talking about, and when he was throwing, I jotted down, and like people were getting really upset with how that game was going around, where it was like Tennessee just could not do anything with it. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, Tennessee's losing this game. Like, this is absolutely happening. Like, Blake Burke, who we'll talk about in a second, obviously had a really rough time in that particular game. But the off-speed stuff, and when Tennessee, just their attack mentality, their aggressiveness, those kind of pitchers, you don't see them as often because that's just not the name of the game. It's velocity. It's throwing hard. You see a lot more nasty stuff and just more things that would lend itself to Tennessee just being one of the sport and conference's better offenses. But when you have guys like that and thrown at you, it just Tennessee, for whatever reason, that even going back to last year, that's just been a struggle for them, those kind of pitchers, for whatever reason.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, the guy that pitched on Tuesday, he's got some decent stuff. He just hadn't had a good year, whatsoever. And again, if you can locate a fastball early in the count and then throw a breaking ball and get these guys just chasing, and you got a scouting report as well, right? Everybody knows that Maui Ahuna is a free swinger. They're going to throw him junk, and he's going to swing at it, right? Everyone knows that, Blake Burke with 2 strikes is not very good. Everybody knows that Jared Dickey is even he'll chase some things out of the zone as well. So, they have a scouting report just like Tennessee does. But as Tony Vitello said after the game, and I mean, he was frustrated, obviously, and he said it the politically correct way, but said, hey, what that guy did over there for Texas A&M, that wasn't in any scouting report we had. That we did not expect that whatsoever. So, just kind of one of those things. The guy, the pitcher against at Georgia, I think his fastball was topping out at like 91. I mean, it was like 90.
Yeah.
He was not throwing hard. He was throwing junk. Kind of the same thing, but a little bit different because the guy on Tuesday certainly had some stuff. So, ultimately, Tennessee's proven they can hit that this year, but they have, when they've struggled the worst top to bottom of the order, it's been against a southpaw who just has a nice little breaking ball that can, get Tennessee swinging. And unfortunately, we've seen that a couple of times.
Yeah, and we might not see that in the regional. We might not see it till the super regional. Like, it's going to pop back up, but yeah. I don't know. I think if that's an issue, it's a much bigger issue if you're not hitting Tennessee's power is there. And the biggest thing too, I think that took almost the whole season, but understandably so when you lose 8 of 9 guys in the lineup, is that you actually found your new go-to lineup. Like, you kind of figured it out with Dickey at the 3, Maui Ahuna batting leadoff, Hunter Ensley really settling into that number 2 spot. I mean, I guess now it's a little bit more in flux because Burke has now been moved down the order, and I wonder if that's going to be the norm going forward. I don't know if that's what it looks like for him. Is it just, do you think that sits, or do you think he's back in that meat of the lineup come regional time?
I think it sits for right now. I mean, he's not done anything to give you, and I know they're not playing this weekend. Obviously, there won't be a midweek or anything, but just kind of the way he's swinging the bat. I mean, I would assume that's sticking. Griffin Merritt as well. Nobody had a good day Tuesday, but Griffin Merritt's resurgence as well at the DH spot kind of gives you reason to say, okay, well, you can hit him 4th, you can hit him 5th if needed.
Yeah.
And so that makes it a little bit easier. So, things can change, and we'll talk, and we'll try to get some info, before regional play starts. But if I was a betting man right here a week out, I would just assume that, Burke's probably going to be hitting in that 7th because that's, he's not giving you much right now. And he's been really bad away from Lindsey Nelson. He's been really bad in conference play. And it's a shame because he's got the sweetest swing. He's got the highest potential in terms of being a hitter on the team, in my opinion. But kind of the same thing, I was saying earlier, teams got the scout on him this year. He's in a much different position to where he's not DHing. He's not coming off the bench as a pinch hitter, to where I think last year he had like 11 home runs and 92 at bats or whatever. It was really good. Yeah. He was getting, he was getting all the comparisons and everything of some of the greats, right? And this year he's playing every single day in the field, and he's gosh, he's learning how to do that as well at first base. It's not easy. It makes you think how fortunate Tennessee was with Luke Lipsius, my counterpart on the porch every single week,
Hmm.
manning that first base. And so, he can work out of it. Hopefully he can give you something in regional play. But as far as Blake Burke is right now concerned, I would assume that he's probably going to be, hitting seventh. And boy, if he can come up with some big hits, that'd be huge, because then you got Christian Scott, you got Cal Stark down there in the bottom of the order. You feel good about the guys at the top. And then, of course, depending on the day, you'll see if Merritt and Denton and Christian Moore can give you something right there in the heart.
Do you think every pitcher is comfortable with Cal Stark to this point, or are you a little nervous going into regional time with
No,
him being the everyday guy?
no, I think they're comfortable. I mean,
Okay.
he's been the everyday guy now for, gosh, I want to say maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
They were. I give Tennessee coaches credit, man. They were trying. They were trying everything. They were trying to push the right buttons. They were trying to figure the right puzzle pieces in. And Jared Dickey hadn't caught since fall, right outside of some bullpens. And they were like, we got to try something. And so they put him behind the plate and they rolled with that for a couple of weeks. And they're like, okay, well, that's not going to work. Let's put him back in the outfield and let's just go with Cal Stark. We know Cal Stark is going to be good defensively, and whatever he gives you at the plate is a plus. Also, what he gives you at the plate is far more encouraging than what Charlie Taylor could at this point in time. So I think Cal Stark's handled the pitching staff really well. I think Cal Stark has shown that, gosh, if the pitcher could help you out at all, he could throw out a lot more runners. That's something that I think a lot of people overlook. Like, controlling the run game, it's not just the catcher, it's the pitcher too. And Tennessee's pitchers are so slow to the plate, but I think he's done a really nice job. And offensively, even though the average isn't where you want it to be, his approach at the plate most of the time, he gives you good ABs, and that's just a plus, with anything he does behind the plate.
If you had to forecast and kind of think about, like, if you're writing the Volquest story about a month from now, of like how Tennessee won the College World Series based on them having the fifth best odds going into the tournament, which is pretty good, pretty surprising, but pretty good. And everyone obviously made the Ole Miss comparisons, because I think their records were identical at one point through a point in the year where they were like, they're exactly the same. And it's like, yeah, that's nice. But all right, like, I don't know what you can really take from that. We'll see. And the odds of it going back to back like that, I mean, the odds are good that it's going to be an SEC team. That's something we've learned the last couple of years. So, I mean, with the conference playing the way that it is, I mean, that's always a good bet at this point. But like, if you had to, based on every game you've watched this year, you've seen how this team's evolved, you've seen how this team's grown, you've seen how really the rotations had to adjust on the fly to what the best three guys are for Vitello, and we're still figuring that out come regional time. And that was the thing. I mean, you had the video, the three aces before the year. You had that. I mean, and it's just, that's baseball, right? Like capital T, capital B. And I wonder what the story is like for you. Like, if you had to do it, what do you think it ultimately ends up being as to why Tennessee won it all this year?
Well, I've said this all season long, even during the struggles, even, when they turn it around, closing with 15, winning 15 of the last 19, 11 of the last 15 SEC games. I said it then. I said it Tuesday. I've said it this week. Tennessee has all the ingredients to win a College World Series. I mean, they do. Now, it's a fact you got to go out there and win the games, right? I mean, it's why you play the games. But, I mean, on paper, even though the starting pitching maybe is taking a back step, I mean, it's not maybe about it. They've taken a backseat to what they were last year, understandably. But they've been really sharp, in my opinion, for the most part, the last 4 or 5 weeks. The bullpen continues to be one of the better ones in all of college baseball. Versatility with a guy like Seth Halverson, with a guy like Chase Burns, with a guy like Camden Sewell. AJ Russell now as a true freshman can do a lot for you. So you have the arms in terms of ingredients. The Braves won 14 straight divisional titles, when I was a kid. And they did it because they had arms. Tennessee has arms. Is it as dominant as it was last year? No, but the Tennessee still has arms. And so because of that, Tennessee has the ingredients to go out and win. Tennessee just got to go be able to hit away from home. And it's unfortunate because I don't have the stat. Brent Helps pulled it up, and he looked it up the other day. But Tennessee, outside of 3 games where Tennessee scored double figures, the Vols are averaging only like 3 runs a game away from Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and that's just not good. And you got to be able to pick up some timely hits. You got to be able to hit deep in the counts and all that. And so I think if the arms are good enough to take you there, but the offense has got to help you out some, because Dolander's going to give up a run in the first inning. We know that. It's been pretty much almost every start. Can he go lights out, or can he give up, maybe 1 or 2 more runs for the start, but your offense gets your back? That's kind of what I'm seeing from here on out. So the offense has just got to hit away from Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and it's not done that as consistently as you'd want so far this year, but still it's got all the makings to do just that. But I still think this team could do it. Am I expecting it? No, but I think this team could do it. It's got the ingredients to do it, and it's got a good coach. And so, we'll see what happens.
I want to do some lightning round Tennessee baseball questions for you.
Okay.
Guy you've been wrong about before, the guy you were wrong about, I should say, about when it comes to Tennessee baseball coming into this year and what actually happened, and guy you were right about that Tennessee fans gave you flack for before the year.
Guy I was wrong about, Christian Scott. He was getting opportunities and opportunities and opportunities, and I'm just sitting there. I didn't write this, but I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, I mean, gosh, you just continue to run him out there. What are you doing? And then obviously we've seen what he's done. Person I was right about, probably Jared Dickey, and that's not really like a hot take or anything. I think we knew Jared Dickey was going to be one of the most important hitters on this team, but yeah, I remember coming in preseason, I was like, guys, Jared Dickey's going to be your starting, center fielder this year, likely to begin things, and people were like, well, what are you talking about? Why? And I think he started the opener and left, but I think game 2 and game 3, he was in center field, and they tried it out. And, of course, it was about trying to get those puzzle pieces to work, right? It was like, okay, you got Booker's versatility in left. You got Christian Scott that's got the arm in right. Dickey's fast enough. He can play center field, all that. Ultimately, his home was in left field, but knowing Jared Dickey was going to be a starting outfielder and not a catcher, not a DH, I guess I was quote-unquote right about that, but Dickey, his importance, and then Christian Scott, his turnaround. It's been fun to watch.
And I just feel like he's a leader on this team. And I mean, Jared Dickey was someone. It's funny, you and I were both right about that. When I was telling folks before the year, and Ryan and I would talk about it, where I was like, I was yelling at the TV early on, where I'm like, why is Jared Dickey not lead off? Like from the get go, like I don't know what Maui Ahuna is going to be, but like it's you're a Braves guy, you understand this too, where it's like, there's a reason Ronald Acuna is batting leadoff, and one of the biggest reasons is that he's unequivocally the Braves' best hitter, and you want to get him as many at-bats as possible. And I'm like, with so much turnover in this lineup from a season ago, I didn't understand the logic of trying to force feed Ahuna at the top or just trying different guys. I'm like, you want Jared Dickey, like him in the 4-hole, you're just costing at-bats. And I'm like, I don't think there's a guy in this lineup that I trust every day more than Jared Dickey. Like, whatever you got to do, he has to be in the everyday lineup, and he has to get the most at bats because he's the one I would put the most. Like, he's just the best all around hitter, whether it's power, whether it's just getting in base, walks, whatever. Like, I didn't understand that early on, and he was batting leadoff for a little bit. Now he's back in that 3-hole, which is fine. But like, if you moved him to 1 and you fiddled around a little bit more, even to the number 2-hole, I wouldn't hate that either. He was the guy that I was just like, I don't understand why if you didn't end this season with Jared Dickey getting the most at bats of any Tennessee baseball player, if with health permitting, something went wrong. Something went wrong, and Tony and I need to have a conversation about the lineup card before these games.
No, I mean I'm with you, right? I think he hit leadoff, those first couple of games when Maui was out, and then Maui came back, and Maui was hitting 6th, and Dickey was up there, and then Maui got put to the bottom of the order a couple of times this year, and I think Dickey hit leadoff, and then most recently it was Burke that was hitting leadoff, and then, that's not going to last. The thing I would say now, I'm with you though. Yeah. Like, I love Jared Dickey hitting leadoff. I did. But now, and kind of knowing who this lineup is and the way this lineup is functioning right now, I kind of want to leave Dickey in the 3-hole, because if you move him to leadoff, who's going to hit 3, right? Burke is not hitting consistently enough right now. Moore not hitting consistently enough right now. Griffin Merritt, I don't think so. Hunter Inslee, I love him in the 2. Maui, if you're moving Maui out of leadoff, he's got to go to the bottom. So right now, I don't mind it as much, but he is without a doubt Tennessee's best hitter, as you mentioned earlier. Contact, power, all left, right, center. He's just a professional hitter, and that's why he's going to get drafted this year, and I can't wait to see it.
I thought Christian Moore would be better. I think that's one I got wrong. As I thought he's been fine. Like, it's not like Christian Moore has had a bad year, but I thought he would be a star. And he's not a star. He's solid. Like, Joel Ortega was better than Christian Moore this past year. And I don't think I would have predicted that before the year.
Well, I mean, they wanted, let's see, I'm trying to pull up the stats. They wanted Christian Moore to take that spot last year, right? And Joel Ortega was like, nah, I'm good. I'm not leaving it. This is my spot. Christian Moore, again, he's a guy that I think has potential to be, drafted. He's a guy that has been huge at points and times this year. I mean, he's got power, right? And I mean, he had that one stretch a couple weeks ago where he hit like a home run in 4 straight games and 6 home runs total during that stretch and all that. He's got versatility. He can hit 2, he can hit 4, he can hit 5, he can hit towards the bottom. But again, there's been a lot like this lineup at points and times this year. There's been stretches where it's like, man, there's a lot a lot to be desired because he's just kind of absent. He'll give you some at bats that just don't look very good. But overall for Christian Moore, he's hitting 300 on the season. He's got double-digit home runs. He's got 40 RBI, and that's great and all. But I'm like you. I think at points in times you thought you were going to get more. Yeah. And for him as well, much like Blake Burke and a little bit like Jared Dickey, he went from a position to where you DH some, you pinch hit some. Mm. You were not an everyday player, and now you're playing second base every single day. And believe me, I mean, he's had his issues at points in times this year and just making some dumb decisions or some errors and all that. But, going and playing the field every inning, going to bat every inning, it's just different, right? So I think the expectations we had on some of these guys as true freshmen last year, because they were so good, their roles changed a little bit. And they're still good players, but there's an adaptation period. And I think, Burke and Moore, they're kind of going through that as well.
Next year's 3-man rotation will be who? Eric Cain.
Okay. Again, a lot can happen between now and then, but I expect Drew Beam to be in there. I expect Andrew Lindsey to be drafted. I think AJ Russell will be in there. And I don't know. It's a good question. We'll see what Chase Burns is, what his role is. We'll see kind of what's going on with Chase Burns. Maybe you go to the transfer portal. But I think right now I'd be comfortable in saying that Drew Beam is in there, and I think A.J. Russell's in there, knowing that Dolander's drafted, knowing that Lindsey's probably drafted.
What's the odds that Lindsey's back, do you think?
I don't know. I'll continue to ask that. I guess I just, and maybe this is wrong on me, I guess I've just always assumed that he was going to be gone and going to be drafted. Yeah. And the last month and 6 weeks, I think he's proven like, hey, I am a draftable player. And so I would say that the odds of him being back would be slim because I think he's going to be drafted, but there's certainly a chance. And if he's back next year, that's huge. He's really been Tennessee's anchor, kind of been Tennessee's rock in the starting rotation the last, 2 months. So I would say they're probably slim right now. I'll continue to ask and everything, but I've always assumed that he was going to be a draftable player this year. And the way he's pitched here lately, it looks very much like it.
Blake Burke and Christian Moore are both on this team next year. True or false?
Yeah, true. I think so. True.
Okay. Do you think Blake Burke has long-term issues, or do you think he figures it out while at Tennessee? Do you think he just is not the star that you thought, and he's actually like a 7th, 8th, 6th guy that just a good complimentary piece, or do you think there's still enough that we saw in his freshman year that he could still be the meat of the order, best hitter on the team? Most consistent hitter.
Maybe he I'm going to make it my own. Maybe he will never be the most consistent hitter. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was phenomenal beginning of the season, non-conference play. I mean, it was like, I even wrote, I was like, he's, without a doubt, Tennessee's best hitter right now. It's not even close, all this type of stuff. But I don't think he'll ever be the hitter consistently that Jared Dickey is. Now, do I think that he could hit for average? Do I think he can hit for power in the middle of that order? Absolutely. He's just got he's got such quick hands. He's got good eyes. He's got a sweet swing. I just think that he needs to work on hitting breaking balls. And that it sounds so elementary. And again, I'm not a hitting coach or anything, but it sounds so elementary, but I just think he needs reps and reps and reps on hitting breaking balls. He can hit a fastball with the best of them. So I don't think he will ever be Tennessee's best hitter. I think he can be a good hitter, and I think he can get drafted and all that. But he's much better than what he's playing this year. But he needs to go and play summer ball. He needs to get a ton of ABs this summer and just kind of figure it out and come back as a different, maybe a different mindset at the plate for next year.
Yeah, I like it. You're gonna hate this. This is like gonna be your Austin Price percentages question.
Okay.
The starting 1 through 9 next year will feature who, Eric, and then this is a 2-parter. Who do you think, who's been like a Jake Kendrow guy who has sat this whole year, finds their way into the lineup? Who do you think is most likely to be an important everyday player for Tennessee next year? Not pitcher.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously, everybody knows watching and listening to this, so much can happen between now and then. All right, transfer portal, draft, recruiting, all that type of stuff. So much will happen. This is going to be completely wrong, but I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah.
All right, I think you're right now. I'll say Zane Denton will come back. I bet he's playing third base.
Okay.
He's got a COVID year. Your shortstop will be Portal or Jake Kendrow. Second baseman will be Moore. First baseman will be Burke. Your catcher will be Cal Stark. Your outfield, I'm just going to give you three outfielders.
Yeah,
Your
this could be
outfield
dicey
will
here.
be Inslee.
Okay.
It will be Dreiling. It will be Tiers.
And you can do a DH for one of these guys too, if you want to. If you think they'll be more likely to be in the DH.
Yeah. And then we'll see. We'll see what they get from the portal. I think that Tennessee's going to be active in the portal. Chapman's going to be in that conversation. We'll see if Stanwich comes back. Stanwich would have pushed for playing time this year.
Do you think he comes back?
I think he does right now. The plan's always been for him to come back. I mean, of course, we'll see once fall comes if he's here, but the plan always has been for him to come back. So that's what I'll go with right now. But again, there's a lot to happen. I think Tennessee will go to the portal. I think Tennessee will upgrade at some positions. A player, I guess you kind of mentioned Jake Kendrow. I think Jake Kendrow's a player. I think Jake Kendrow will play. They like him. He bats from the right side, just about getting reps, and all that. And I don't think he was ready at the beginning of the season to go out there and start against Arizona and at Grand Canyon and that tournament there. So that's why Austin Jaslove kind of got the nod. But I think Jake Kendrow is going to be a guy that can play versatility as well. He can play third, he can play second, he can play first, short. They like him, so I think he's going to be a guy that didn't see an awful lot of time this year, but we'll see a lot next year.
Interesting. Yeah, I like Kendrow too in his spot starts. Dreiling, I think, will be the star of this young group. I think Dreiling's the one. Dreiling is the Drew Gilbert who was promised in a couple of years.
Dreiling, man, like he's got so much promise. I love his swing. It's so quick. It just there's a reason why he hadn't played much outfield this year. You just got to get reps and reps and reps, and he saw a little bit of time. He's had his struggles, but he'll get better. But I'm with you, man. I think Dylan
he's got
Dreiling's
first round upside, right? Like he's got first round upside.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. For sure. He was the best player out of his state coming out of a high school, and was highly rated by Perfect Game and all that. So yeah, I think he's going to be a star, and you hope that Kavaris Tiers can stay healthy and can, I hate it for him this year because he was playing into an everyday role and then a couple of injuries. And now people are like, is he hurt? And it's like, no, he's available. It's just, you're the point now to where everybody has their role and he's missed so much time. It's just unfortunate that he's kind of regulated to the bench.
Yeah. We need Jordan Beck to just whatever Jordan, because if you look at the pictures of Jordan Beck before, right when he got to campus versus what he looked like when he left, it's just whatever Jordan Beck did, Kavaris, that's what you got to do. That's all we need you to do. Whatever, because the bigger you are, you just, I don't know, maybe you won't get injured. Just keep putting on weight, putting on muscle, and don't overextend yourself. Because he would fall in the outfield. Jordan Beck was, I don't understand how he didn't get hurt sometimes with some of the angles and some of his slides where it scared me being at the game where I'm Jordan, don't worry about it. Don't go and bust your ass doing that, man. I would prefer you keep hitting dingers in the middle of the lineup. But I don't need you to pretend that you're Andrew Jones out there. But I miss Drew Gilbert and Jordan Beck.
One of the most underrated parts about both their games, Gilbert and Beck, they were great. They were just great fielders. Beck truly was. And again, I'm no scout, I'm no coach, but Beck truly was kind of like a 5-tool type guy, right? I mean, he could do everything. He was fast enough, contact, power, defense. I mean, he was fantastic. And there's a reason why both those guys. Gilbert's already number one in the Astros organization up there in AA. There's a reason why both those guys are first round picks and are off and running and doing great things.
He's going to be, I was telling John on the pod this week where I was like, Gilbert's going to make it through and he's going to play in the majors for 17 years. And Major League Baseball fans are going to hate him. That man is going to be hated. And he went to the perfect organization for him.
Did you see the picture of him and Jose Altuve a week ago? It's that people that follow baseball just love that picture.
Yeah, because he's going to embrace it and he's going to be on a good team and he's going to be a good player and he's going to piss off a lot of people. And look, Drew Gilbert, all-time favorite. I don't know if a Tennessee baseball player will ever top Drew Gilbert for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
he was
hard.
great.
We'll end up here. 865 Live coming up this weekend. Eric, with Amir Jackson coming into the fold, do you think that's a realistic possibility from Portal, Georgia? And as a Georgia guy, I don't even know where Portal is, and I feel like I have a pretty good handle on everywhere Georgia. And I was looking at that, and I'm like, I don't actually know where that is. Like, Georgia has the most amount of counties of anywhere in the United States, of any state in the United States, and I thought I knew just about all of them. I don't know Portal. I did not was not familiar, but he's coming up, 4-star tight end. Obviously not as highly rated as Jalen Riddell, but do you think that's realistic? And do you think it even matters, like the tight end stuff? Because I still just look at it as like, in this offense, it's fine. Tennessee's going to figure it out. Tennessee will find some dudes. I'm just not really worried about tight end.
I will differ there just by how important that position is. Jacob Warren and Princeton Fant. Princeton Fant was kind of interesting because he was such a Swiss Army knife. He was fun to watch. But like, you have got to have, and I know you've heard me say this a million times, and everybody has, but the tight end position, you got to be out wide, you got to be in H-back on the line. I mean, and you got to go. Let me start over. You've got to be able to do all those things so that you don't stop and sub and allow the defense to sub. So if you can upgrade that position in terms of athleticism and talent and all that type of stuff, I just think, the offense has already been so good. Maybe it can be better, right? And so, we'll see. But to your point, I'm with you, man. Like, as long as Heupel's there, as long as you got a quarterback that can make the throws, like, I think you're just going to figure it out. But as far as Amir Jackson, yeah, I think it's a real possibility. He needs to get in. He needs to continue to get face time with, Alec Ablin and Joey Halsley and, of course, Josh Heupel. Phil, get comfortable around there, in Knoxville. He's kind of target number one now, if you will, on the big board at tight end. The fact that he's going to be in this weekend, I think, is huge. And, Tennessee's going to put the full court press, on him and some others, knowing that, Riddell committed to Georgia and knowing that, some guys on their list are starting to go elsewhere, that they're going to start really trying to make a push for these guys. And so I think this weekend could be huge for a guy like Amir Jackson and seeing how far he can come in terms of being a real possibility for Tennessee for maybe, obviously an OV in the future, and then maybe a commitment down the line.
Is Marcus Easley there this weekend?
He is. I believe he is. I think he's on the list as one of those guys that Tennessee's hoping to come in and kind of move the needle with. Yeah.
Mike Matthews from Parkview, is he there?
Mike Matthews, I do not believe is coming in this weekend. I've got a list right here that I'm looking at. I don't believe Mike Matthews is coming in.
But Wingo is, right? I think Wingo is. Or maybe is Wingo. Who did I see?
Wingo is not going to be here. I'm looking at this right now. Wingo is not going to be here.
Okay.
And I don't believe Mike Matthews is either, but Amari Jefferson is going to be here.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. What do you think? Do you think they end up with at least one of those three?
I do. Ryan Wingo's recruitment's going to be, it kind of has been, but it's going to, guys love the process, and he's one of them, and that's A-okay, right? I mean, I never had that ability to enjoy the process, so you do you, right? I think Ryan Wingo is going to be a little bit all over the place. I think Mike Matthews really does like Tennessee and enjoys the relationship with the coaches and all that. And Amari Jefferson's been quoted as early as this week saying, hey, Tennessee's probably behind Georgia and Alabama right now, but another one, Tennessee's going to put the full court press on Amari Jefferson this week. They view him as just as important as Wingo and Matthews, especially as being an in-state guy. And so landing one of those three, I absolutely believe it'll be possible. And, if I'm not Austin, I'm not Matt Ray, but if I had to put kind of a guess on, I'd probably say Amari Jefferson might be the best one of those, and then maybe Mike Matthews and then Ryan Wingo. But we'll see. I mean, this weekend will go a long way for Amari Jefferson.
Talking to some Georgia folks in the know, it seems like Georgia's not happening for Matthews. And if that's the case, if it comes down to just USC and Tennessee, it's like, it might just depend on family, right? Like, do you want your family to be able to attend your games in the fall? Like, that might just be it. Of just USC is like, all right, we're good, the cross country flights and all that. And if he stays close to home, Tennessee is probably the best option. And he has the best relationship of all the close to home schools. That, I don't know. That would be huge. I think my gut tells me Mike Matthews ends up there, and we'll see what that means for Amari Jefferson. But then you're that's the kind of 5-star that I think would keep a lot of fans who lost their minds in the Volquest message boards over Jaden Riddell over the weekend. Where if you land even Amir Jackson and or Amari Jefferson and Mike Matthews, I think that calms a lot of nerves about like we got to close with some of these big names, and I think they will. It's early, and I think they will close with a couple of these big ones.
Yeah, again, and this is nothing that you haven't heard already for some of the guys that covered a little closely, but Tennessee is recruiting in a pool now with the elite. Okay,
Yeah.
And so you got to do your job of closing some of those guys, but you're not going to get every single one. Right? You're just not. If Mike Matthews and Amari Jefferson both want to come to Tennessee, they're taking both of them, right? I mean, if Tennessee could probably take 6, maybe 7 offensive linemen in this class, it's just you're to a point now to where you're not going to get everybody, but you still need to close your fair share, and there's still a ton of guys left on that board that Tennessee loves. Sammy Brown's coming in as an official visitor this weekend, and Tennessee would take him in a heartbeat. That's probably a long shot. I don't see that happening whatsoever. But can Tennessee close on Peyton Lewis? He's going to be in town this weekend. That'll be huge. That everybody's been criticizing the running back recruitment. This is a 4-star, highly rated 4-star guy. Can Tennessee close with him? What does Tennessee look like with Daniel Hill as well? And then, of course, you got Boo Carter that, talk about a kid that loves the process. He's an in-state guy, and he's a highly rated prospect to where, if you get him and you get a couple of these other guys, I mean, this class is going to turn around, in a hurry. And it's not like you're in a bad spot right now. So, Tennessee, a lot of their most coveted targets are still out there, and they are highly rated guys. And so I'm intrigued to see kind of how this ends up. But one thing's for sure, Chase, is this better than anybody, this weekend is going to be monumental in terms of, we'll see if they get the commitment of Lewis. I have a good feeling about that one. I think that's going to be, Tennessee, but we will see, how many more commitments could stem from this weekend. So many of those last year in the month of June and July stemmed from this recruiting weekend. It's become one of the most important weekends on the calendar for Tennessee football. So it's going to be big. Mini golf, scavenger hunts, social media pictures, cookouts, all the stuff. It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be hopefully a good day for Tennessee.
Yeah, and it's going to be different because I'm not a student there anymore because I graduated in December, and it's officially been a full semester since I've been gone. Eric, I saw Jack Luttrell and a couple of the other guys I remember last year as I was walking. I forgot why I was on campus in the library for something, and they were just walking like 4 guys. I couldn't tell who the other guys were, but I did this like weird, like I was like, why am I waving? Like, I know why you're here. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm just gonna keep going. Like, it was.
What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, that was 100% what happened because you would do that sometimes. Where I had this running joke that I told my wife, where I'm like, if I see Zakai Ziegler one more time, he's gonna like call campus police because I've pulled up and walked past him so many times and did the awkward wave, and I'm just like, he doesn't know me. Why am I doing this? Why am I waving at Zakai Ziegler? This is so weird. But that's just really it because you recognize them and you realize, oh, we haven't actually done a pod together. You don't actually know who I am. So
I know you, but you have no clue who I am.
Right. And
my favorite thing is like these guys will, maybe know my face, maybe know my voice, through the recruiting process or whatever. But then when they get to campus, they go into media settings, and so they recognize you, right? Mm-hmm. But then you'll see them somewhere out of that place, like you'll see them around town, or you'll see them on campus, like walking up the hill or something, and they're like, I know you. Who is that? And you're like, hey, what's up? What's going on? And they're like, do I know you? It's just that's when it gets really awkward.
Dude, Christian Conyer was in line with me behind at the movie theater like 2 months ago with my wife, and I like turned and I was like, "What's up, Christian?" And I don't know why I said, I was just like, "What's up, Christian?" And I was like, "Good luck this spring." And my wife was like, "Who was that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the freshman DB, Christian Conyer from Kentucky." And she was like, "Oh, okay." But like no one else, when you're that young in Knoxville, you can kind of hide out in public. But I'm like, I got to get off message boards that I just recognize Christian Conyer out in public. This is a little ridiculous. I know too much stuff it's stored in my head. Eric Cain, we can find you on Locked On Vols YouTube. Go subscribe today. New content Monday through Friday on the great Locked On Vols podcast that I love listening to each and every day. You can also listen to you on the Volquest podcast. You get the mailbag. It's just a better show when you're hosting. Brent, it's just a lot going on when Brent's leading it. It's just you never know where it's going. And you can tell Brent I said that because I'm still a little bitter over the Andy Griffith Matlock conversation that he threw me under the bus for a couple weeks ago. But yeah, there you go. Volquest.com. Subscribe. This is the best time to subscribe to Volquest with so much stuff going on right now with Tennessee athletics and recruiting and baseball and all that good stuff. Eric, thank you so much. Have a great holiday weekend, and I will talk to you very soon.
Chase, appreciate it, man. Thanks as always.
Well done, nephew. Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.